Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Trek Way. Where's the mug, Gray? Come on. Like, straight away, you got to have the mug
Oh,
up there, man. Come on. He got me a mug, and I don't even have it to show. I feel bad. I don't drink tea or coffee, though, much. Saying
just
that,
put water in it.
I've got coffee here. It's a latte.
Oh, you got,
Anyway,
just
sorry.
put water in it. That's all.
Water in a cup. What are you, a barbarian? You put water in a
What?
glass, not a cup.
Nobody would know anyway. You just put
I
water in
know,
the
I know,
cup, you
I
pick
know.
it up. In fact, you could put nothing in it and then just go, "Oh, that's good."
I should just dual wield with that one and the
Yeah.
GGR one as well.
There you
Um,
go.
no, I'm not doing that after the last time. No, that's why I stopped, because I'm like,
I know. Yeah,
this
I
guy
know.
will clip me. Yeah, so apologies, digress on how I can give you the title. So yeah, we're back again, of course, with a review series of Star Trek Lower Decks, Season 4, Episode 4. Something borrowed, something green. So I like the title right off the bat. Right off, straight away, I'll get some of the T's and C's out the way. I don't know if I'll be doing audio podcasts continuing going forwards, but we'll certainly be on the YouTubes always. And for now, we're certainly, wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll get us there. Same with Gray. We'll be back next month after some personal stuff with Gray's kind of been got better slightly. So we'll be back next month for that, and that's all entertainment stuff. He can be found at Gray's Green Room on the YouTubes, on the podcast platform, and on the Twitter as well, Gray's Green Room. And a little shout out to Nick. I missed the podcast last night, the gaming podcast we do, Extreme PC UK, on all the usual platforms as well. I think he's stopped YouTube now. Yeah, it's mostly Twitch. Come to our Discord as well, Extreme PC UK. We have an entertainment section, and we have a Star Trek section in there, a Star Trek channel as well now. So,
Now there's more stuff to talk about.
yeah, and you pay for your channel. I don't pay for my channel. There you go. Did he know that? No, he does now. Anyway, right, so apologies, we digress. This episode, right, I shouldn't really say this at the start so people then start tuning out. It wasn't amazing. Save the scores to the end, great. It wasn't amazing. I've seen worse, and you've explained one or two things for me that make sense. A bit of American culture and history that I wasn't aware of, which makes a little bit more sense to me now. So, but yeah, we'll kick off the review anyway. Certainly, we have the same kind of intro to this one as we have had since the start, Gray, which I knew would happen. We start with an Orion ship this time. And what were they doing on board? They were discussing something about, was it kidnapping, or it was Orion scheming ways, I think they were up to when they were on board.
Yeah, they're kind of talking about what they wanted to do, like whether they wanted to kidnap somebody or rob something, or trying to make up their mind.
They would get on really well. See if they teamed up with the Ferengi, they could take over the Alpha Quadrant. I'm just saying.
They would steal all the stuff and then fence it with the with the Ferengi. Works perfectly.
It works perfectly, exactly. I miss the Ferengi. I wouldn't have seen them again. So yeah, they are doing their Orion type stuff, and this time the ship that wrecks everything it sees in its path, the random alien ship, we do see it again, but the Orion ship's chasing it rather than the other way about.
A little different this time because they want to rob it. So.
They want to rob it, exactly. Yeah, this ship's just minding its own business, and the Orions are trying to make a profit. And it stops, turns round, and literally just wrecks them in one shot. And you literally see, and this was slightly graphic, right? You literally saw everyone melting in front of you in animation.
A little bit. They showed it pretty quick, but you could see it just kind of like,
I'm melting. Which is, yeah, but bit graphic, but I'm not complaining. It's an adult comedy, so whatever.
The only thing I'm not liking about this is that this is the third time in a row. And okay, I would like to know what the mystery is all about. I get it. I agree. But it seemed out of place when they first did it for Lower Decks. It still seemed out of place the second time, and now it still seems out of place the third time. And I'm like, I'm enough with all this already. I mean, it doesn't. I don't know. It just doesn't jive.
You know they'll pay it off, though. They have to. And the thing is, this is like their small version of a serial long arc, but they're still doing their episodic stuff, and it's still funny for the most part. So as long as they pay it off and they pay it off well, if they pay it off well in a very comical manner, then that'd be hilarious, because it was very serious at the start, isn't it, with a ship just wrecking everything. You're like, that's not very
Sure.
lower decks. And then at the end, I don't know, it turns into the ship from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or something, where it changes from one thing to the next. So, but yeah, this ship's still on the wrecking path, and I'd imagine it'll keep doing that until probably the end of the season. And that'll be a finale episode, probably, because there is more lower decks being confirmed, I believe. We then go back on the Cerritos, and there is Mariner. Captain Freeman walks into the room. Mariner's there with others, and she turns around and goes, "Hey, Mum, what's up?" I'm like, "Come on, really?" I'm thinking this is funny, but I'm also thinking, "Oh, that's your captain. You can't say that." It's a bit.
I thought I was waiting for kind of a comeback, but I don't think she really did a comeback though.
She didn't actually,
which is really kind of dumb. She should have.
Yeah, she should have said, "You're, suspended you're put to your quarters for 24 hours or something like that. You're locked in there for your insubordination or something." So.
See, I'm almost wondering, and we're going to mention something else, but not right now when we get a little further into the review. But I keep on. Both you and I have been saying the last 2-3 weeks or whatever, lost opportunities.
Yes.
And we keep, if we are spotting it, and yeah, maybe we're a little more savvy than the normal bear, but we're not, we're not professionals per se, and yet we're spotting them out. And every single time you and I are going like, oh, that could have been really funny. It was wide open for it. And this time it was also wide open for it. She should have had a snappy comeback. That would have been funny, but nothing.
The writing has not been as good this season. I'm going to say it. It's not been as good, because I don't know if you're writing for Lower Decks, Gray, are you a Star Trek geek? Are you someone that writes comedies? Are you ideally someone that does both? Because trying to find someone that writes comedies for a living and also is a big Star Trek geek, they must be few and far between. So maybe that's the writing staff's changed.
If you're doing the proper type of writing room, you should have a mixture of all the things you just said. So you should have a writer that loves Star Trek. You should have a writer that's comedy oriented, and another one that's maybe a little more sci-fi oriented, and then you mix it all up, and you get what you want. Yeah. But from the previous episodes that we've been watching, and some of the better ones, a lot of these missed opportunities that were always taken, and they always had the line. Now all of a sudden we're seeing, you and I are seeing the points where the line would be, this is going to be a good one, and then they don't do anything.
Yeah,
it's almost like a comedy duo, like two people, like you and I or something, and I deliver you a line and you don't pick up on it.
Yeah. Or if
and everything falls flat at that point.
Or if you're playing football, soccer, then your guys passing to your other player, but the other player is not in tune with his teammate, so he misses the pass completely, or he makes the wrong run because they're not working well together. Yeah, exactly. So many analogies. But
I'm hoping, like you were saying, this is not going to be a trend, because if this is a trend, we're going to expect a lot more of this, and we just started the season.
Oh yeah, there's 10 episodes. We're not even halfway through yet. I'm a glass half full guy. I'm an optimist, so I'm hoping it does. But 4 episodes in and it hasn't yet. So, although saying that, the start was a little bit. But anyway, sorry, I don't want to rip it too much. Let's just kick on with the rest of it by all means.
It's not really. It's not a ripping. We're commenting.
Constructive feedback, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Because we know what it has been.
Oh yeah,
we know we know what it can be, because we've seen some really excellent episodes, not often, but here and there. And now we're just basing it on the fact that, all right, we know this, so why are you guys missing these opportunities? It's too funny.
The thing is, Gray I've always loved Lord Decks, but at the start, you, Gray, were a bit more sceptical of Lord Decks in general. You just didn't think a concept like that would work or should work. But I think the longer you've watched it, you've kind of fell in love with the characters a bit, just including your Dr. Cat.
I've kind of accepted it. I mean, part of me still says that I don't know if a humor show in Star Trek is really necessary per se, where you can come up with something maybe more original. But at the same time, the humor's good. I mean,
It,
well, it's not always good, but it's good.
it works though. It works. The humor works with when they done the live crossover with Strange New Worlds. It worked because I think what they done is they
Hmm.
dialed it back a bit so that it could be still funny. Because the thing is, Star Trek always had funny moments throughout it,
Sure,
but it obviously
of
was
course.
never to the level of Lower Decks, and it wasn't
Right,
adult themed. I mean, I remember, was it
right.
season 1 or 2? Boimler was naked with his legs above his head, and they put a big black patch above his genitals. So I was just like, wow,
Yeah,
that's the kind of stuff I want to see more of, but we're not seeing that. Um,
yeah.
anyway, moving on. So after
Well,
the
that'll be coming next. We're gonna have Star X Trek.
Star X, I'm up for that. Sign me up, my man. Star X Trek. That would be extremely rude if something like that happened, Gray. But yeah, after Mariner being a little bit cheeky with her captain, Tendi, Captain Freeman comes in and says to Tendi, she's been granted some shore leave. I don't think she's requested it, Gray, because you put a special request
Right.
here. I don't think she's requested it because they are near the planet Orion, and she's allowed to go down and see her family. And she's like, "Oh,
Hmm.
really? Oh, I don't need to. It's okay, Captain." She's really reluctant, and the captain's like, "Yeah, no, do it. Just go. You're allowed to. It's not a problem." And then I'm commenting here. It doesn't seem very fair. It's just her, but that's why
Mm.
Gray comments a special request. Maybe if they're near a planet they haven't been near in a long time, like maybe Orion. For all I know, Orion's kind of way out there. I don't really know where it sits in the Alpha Quadrant compared to the Solar System, but maybe it's far
Mm.
out and they don't get a chance to see their family and friends often, so you're allowed to go and see them. Who knows? But it's just her that's allowed to go, and it doesn't seem very fair. Tendy's very reluctant to actually go there, but she's convinced to go. And Tevin, who is grown on both of us a little bit more, the
Yeah.
female Vulcan officer with a bit of Vulcan humour and sass about her. Her and Mariner actually asked Tendi, or convinced Tendi, sorry, to let them come along. And it's going to be a girls' trip. So she's like, yeah, okay, okay. So what could possibly go wrong with those three?
Of course,
Absolutely
nothing.
nothing. Now, we have another, like the B plot of Boimler and Rutherford. The reason the girls want to get away from them as well is because ever since they started sharing a room together, the emotional closeness is becoming a bit too much for Tevin. It's too much for
Here
her
in
Vulcan logic.
here in the U.S., they call it bromance.
Yeah, same here as well. Kinda a little bit, yeah, like
Okay.
a bromance. Like, yeah, too much actually, to the point where they're actually finishing one another's sentences, and I'm like, oh no, no. So you're liking Tevin then? You mentioned that here as well, Grace. I think at the start she started annoying me, but she's
Mhm.
kind of grown on me now. You're a fan.
Yeah, I think so. She's the term is second banana because she's so logical and generally straight laced. Okay, because she's a Vulcan or whatever, she becomes the second banana. And the second banana in comedy is the one that's the one that's more a little more serious, where the other guy's delivering the lines. And if it's done right, your second banana really makes it work. So it's working because they'll bounce things off of her, and she just comes up with something that's typical Vulcan, but because she's so straight faced and everything, it comes off funny.
A second banana. I'm thinking logically, what's the relation to bananas, and what's the relation to a second banana? That makes
Well, I
no
mean, if
sense to me.
you guys, well, I don't know if you heard Abbott and Costello. You know who they are.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I don't know a
Okay,
lot, but I've
so
heard of them. Yeah.
it's in the U.S. So generally speaking, they're both comedians, but they were a duo. I mean, you couldn't have one without the other generally. So one of them was the second banana because the other guy was delivering the lines of being the straighter guy or the more intelligent guy or whatever you want to call it. And the other one was goofing off of him. So that guy was the second banana, but it worked when they were together. If they separated and did their own thing, it just didn't work.
What's the relation to bananas though and fruit? You still haven't
It
explained
was
that.
just it's a comedy term.
Oh, okay.
That's all. That you're the second banana.
They made up.
Or like you guys have heard the Tonight Show, right? Our talk shows
Yeah,
over
yeah,
here.
of course. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so you guys have talk shows over there too. I've seen them on YouTube, and a lot of times they have the co-host, right? okay, the co-host technically would be the second banana, whereas the top banana is the hosts.
Our talk shows are not as good as your talk shows, man. After seeing some of
Well,
that
right now
already.
the talk shows aren't even happening with the strike, so it's just like
What's that?
nothing's been.
What? That isn't acting, is
No,
it?
no, no. That's true, but there's writers, lots of writers.
Yeah, there is. That's true. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
So
GGR
so
there.
you can't. Yeah, because there's interviews, writing. There's monologues, writing.
This is the kind of stuff we
And
talk about in GGR, by the way, guys. Tune in next month because we'll be ripping
yep,
Hollywood a new one, I think.
yep.
Okay, so yeah, Tavin is growing to me. She is pretty funny. She has a couple of comical lines in that, including the emotional closeness is disturbing her between Rutherford and Boimler, and it kind of is a bit. So apparently, Tendi, Prime Tendi, as she's called on Orion.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Prime Tendi.
I just thought of Transformers as soon as I heard that. Um, she lives.
Yeah.
She's partly part of her family are the fifth biggest syndicate in Orion, which I thought was pretty cool. She keeps this very secretive, Grey, like her personal life, or where she comes from and all that. She keeps it. She's almost a little bit embarrassed to be Orion because of the stigma
Yeah.
against.
A lot embarrassed. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's not like that. She thinks she's cracked up a couple of times when people just make assumptions as she tries to defend it. But
Right.
yeah, she's part of a big syndicate back in Orion. It turns out, though, that Tendi's sister has been kidnapped, but this is considered normal, and which got a chuckle from both Gray and I, because you're kidnapping people all the time, and I think Tendi just went, she'd be kidnapped, whatever, yeah, it's fine, it's just no sweat, no
Yeah.
bother.
She'll be back at the
Just
end.
another
And everything will
day,
be
it's fine.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem too bothered at all. And of course, there is the rescue mission to get Tendi's sister back because she's due to get married. So she has to be found. It's not like, yeah, she'll turn up tomorrow. They have to find her. So now, Gray's explained this a little bit in the notes to me, so it makes sense. Boims and Rutherford had a little heated exchange earlier on over a. There was weird stuff for this episode. Even though Gray's explained a bit of it, it's still a genuinely weird, and it's just doesn't make sense. The episode
It
doesn't flow.
seem to. Yeah, exactly. The flow is not there. You're just kind of like, what?
And speaking of flows, they have a little argument and fallout over the little spray bottle for their bonsai plant, their bonsai tree.
Little water spritzer. They're arguing over.
And you're like, really? Come on, guys. But anyway, so after their heated exchange, they tried to make up for it by going to the holodeck and having a little holo program between them. And I was a little bit confused because it seemed very, before I've read Gray's notes here, very kind of 1900s, very old southern accents in the States and going way back. And Gray can explain this a little bit better than I kind of think.
Yeah, I mean, basically, once I saw what was happening, I saw the two of them dressed up as a very famous historical person, author in American history, Mark Twain, otherwise known as Samuel Clemens, and he's one of the probably most famous authors or one of the most famous authors in American history. He's written books to this day, still hold up, and if you can find the original prints of these books, are worth a lot of freaking money.
Wow.
But it wasn't just because of him, an author. He was also a personality, a character, and very intelligent man. And when you went to talk to him, you would always have something to say that made total sense, and a lot of times a real satirical kind of thing. Anyway, so immediately I see them both dressed up as Mark Twain instead of just one of them. But as soon as I saw they were in the holodeck, all of a sudden I went ding, because this is what they've done in an old TNG episode.
That rings a bell.
So here we have another throwback, and basically the throwback goes all the way back to a episode called Time Zero, and it was the 5th season, the last episode, cliffhanger, which led into the 6th season, episode 1, and that was Time Zero Part 2. And in that episode, an engineering team finds evidence on Earth that aliens had visited Earth. This is like 500 years later. And the weird part about it is that when the engineering team was looking through doing their archaeological digs and junk, they find Data's head. and it's 500 years old.
Is it definitely Data and not lore or B or
No,
anything? No.
no,
Okay.
stayed his head, 500 years old. And all of a
Wow.
sudden, like Data of our time is just sitting there going like, you know, trying to figure out how this happened. And it begins a whole time travel story. And that episode was really good. And the actor that played Mark Twain, I'm sorry I didn't get his name, played the Mark Twain part so good because we have records of Mark Twain and he's been on film and stuff like that. And he was so good at Mark Twain that he actually got a gig playing Mark Twain on the stage after the show was over.
Oh wow,
So
really?
yeah. So that's really
Okay.
interesting. So anyway, I immediately clicked not just because of Mark Twain, but because it's a TNG episode. Here goes the throwback. So
Right.
they basically proceed now and do their little tit for tat. You know, each doing a Mark Twain-ism back and forth with each other, which is funny.
Now you've explained that, it does make more sense, Gray, but why did you think they both chose to be the same character in that setting? Was that to try and get rid of some of this beef, or where's the context to the actual the history piece?
I think this is where it veered off a little bit. Supposedly, from what I'm gathering from the episode, one of their most favorite characters that they like to play is Mark Twain. So apparently, it was
Right.
Boim's favorite, and I guess Boims didn't know that it was also Rutherford's favorite, so they both came at it as Mark Twain. And of course, they're arguing with each other, going like, "That's my favorite character. No, it's your favorite character." And then they start realizing they can both play the same part at the same time and be together.
See,
Everything's
because I
wonderful.
didn't know that, in episodes maybe outside Star Trek, they'll briefly find a sneaky, intelligent way of explaining what this period piece is in history for the non-educated, in terms of people that are not from the US.
Right.
Because I didn't know
Right.
until Gray told me. So there's a writing problem there. Put a funny one-liner. Oh, why are we both doing this character? Oh, because he was a famous guy back in America's history. And I'll be like, there you go. That's all you had to do. One line. One line. But anyway,
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, that missed opportunity again,
Missed
like I said.
opportunities. That's the theme
How
so
many?
far.
Yeah. How many times have you and I said was when we get into a bad writing situation on Trek that they could have figured it all out with one line, and they could have said something and it would have made it a little more,
God
But
damn it. Anyway. So yeah, that explains that little bit there. They both go the same character because they both love this character, and it's just it's a verbal exchange back and forth constantly because they're the same bloody guy. Back on Orion, Tendi and the girls are doing their best Sherlock Holmes impression, and they're trying to find Tendi's sister, clues. So the one place they'll go to, they can get information from someone at a nightclub. So they basically all go to a nightclub, and they're all dressed in, I wouldn't say it's sexy gear, but it's probably the equivalent of what a respectful young girl would wear to a nightclub at the weekend or something,
yes,
and
sexy for a cartoon.
well, exactly. Yeah. I've seen worse than a cartoon, by the way. But Tavin's like, why would dress like this? It's ridiculous. And I don't know. I think Mariner kind of digs it because obviously she's the one that's a lot more down to earth. So that's how they dress.
She came in saying, "Tendi, you never told me about this place." And you hear the music going, and they're all dancing around.
I'm too old for nightclubs, people. Yeah, so they go into the nightclub, and Tendi has a lot of pull, more pull than we realise as the episode goes along, because at first the bouncer doesn't know who she is, but then when she reveals herself properly, he sees her, and as Gray says, the bouncer basically craps his pants because he realises who Tendi is, and she's like, "Yeah, don't make a big deal, man. Just let me into the nightclub." She's a big deal. She's a huge deal, and we didn't actually know it until this episode kicked off. So that's amusing. She does go into the club with her cohorts, and this there was some comical. The funniest part of this whole episode was probably in the next scene. They're playing a weird ass murder bug drinking game, and in fact, great. You try your best to explain what the hell this scene was. It was like a bug trying to drown in a shot, and let's see if you can do a better job than me.
At first, I didn't know what was going on, or what the bug had anything to do with anything. But then you start realizing it. They have a bunch of drinks or shot glasses lined up, and they have this strange looking bug who doesn't look. He looks pretty mean or whatever, and it's pretty big. It's like 6-7 inches long, and apparently it sits there and then it crawls back and forth. Basically, and so they're drinking a shot. And then the thing crawls over, and you're supposed to drink a shot and answer a question before the thing gets to you, because if it does get to you, it bites you, and I guess it kills you or something. And then what happens is when they get the answer right, or they drink the drink and everything, a shield forms over their hand, and the bug can't get through. So they keep on doing this. It's kind of like the version of Russian roulette when you saw in the movies, where you have the one bullet in the gun, and you spin the chamber and go like this. Very similar to that, except it was a cool looking bug, I guess. So it was kind of. It was kind of neat. It was different.
Did you notice the bug looked pissed off because it couldn't get a bite into anyone's hand?
Yeah.
It was starting to look... I mean, if you can tell the facial expression of a bug, there's something messed up, man. I'm sorry, there really is. Because, yeah, Greg, you've done a pretty sound job there. Literally, this bug is going from left... They've got one hand on the equivalent of like a roulette table.
Yeah.
And then one hand with a shot that's given to them. So they've got to pick up the shot, down it, answer the question or the point. And if they do it in time, a force field goes over their hand to stop the bug.
Right.
And the bug almost bites them a couple of times. But it'll go up literally as the bug's about to go into the area where the hand is. And it'll get knocked back. And you can see it getting pissed off. I'm like, what?
Which I guess makes it more dangerous each time.
Yeah, he's scuttling, from one hand to the other really quickly. I need a piece. But no one gets bit, thankfully.
Yeah, but wait, before you say that, the part that I thought that was kind of interesting was it wasn't Tendi, it was the other person, but she answered the question wrong or something like that, and as her hand is on the table, these two big straps all of a sudden place her on top of her hand and hold it there so the bug can bite it. I'm going like, wow. Did
the bug actually bite her in the end?
No, because Tendi took a drink glass and dropped it over the bug.
Yeah.
But I'm going like, man, they're serious with these games, man. You can't move your hand if you don't answer the question. Too bad.
I think I prefer Russian roulette. It's over
instantly. Yeah, then you would know exactly, right?
So she gets the information she needs from our contact inside the club, but then we go back to the holodeck, and there's some more Southern talk, some more Mark Twain.
Mark Twainisms.
Yeah, well, that's a perfect way to describe it. Mark Twainisms. Coin that. Which I comment's very weird, but then because Grace gave me context, it makes a little bit more sense. Still weird, but not as weird now that I know. Now, here's probably the funniest bit of the whole bloody episode. They go into like some dungeon thing, honest to God, like proper. This is what I remember from Orion's back in early Star Trek. But maybe not to the level of sexualness that we see here. We see male Orions literally instead of females in the cages dancing, but like really grinding and thrusting and all that. You're like, okay, right, what's going on here? It was comical. They're controlled by pheromones from the females. Which I thought was bloody hilarious. Tevin and Mariner seem very pleased by all the sexiness. Tevin even comments about one of the males that's very ripped, like he pleases my eyes or something like that,
Yeah, but she says it with a straight-faced Vulcan. She goes,
very
yes, it does
deadpan.
appear to be, it does seem rather pleasing.
And then so we explained how they're controlled, Grey, right? The male Orions, but how did they get their top-ups of pheromones?
Well, the part that was funny to me was that one of them literally sticks his nose in one of the female's armpits. I mean, literally, right into the armpit. And he's sitting there he's sniffing like this, and he goes, more moans.
That was amusing. I'll give them that. Yeah.
That was probably the best, like you said, the best scene in the whole episode.
Yeah.
It was just pretty funny.
I like the extreme hilarity when it's lower decks. So if you're going to be an adult comedy, don't be half-arsed. Go properly full out and even shock me a little bit. I don't care. So yeah, that was comical. Not as many funny scenes after that, but back in the bridge. Now this is the weirdest bloody bit of... it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't get this. This is so
the context, it didn't flow.
The flow is completely gone on this one. It doesn't make any sense.
They just inserted something, in fact, didn't copy, just pasted something in randomly to an episode. The captain's on the bridge. She's talking to an alien on the view screen, and it's to do with rights over scanning a nebula. Freeman's like, yeah, we've got the rights to this nebula. We're going to scan it, and the alien's like, no, I've got the rights, and let's get at it. Boimler and Rutherford come onto the bridge, and they think, they're like, we've got an idea, Captain. We know how to sort this. Let's take you and the alien to the holodeck program of Mark Twain. Yeah. And you can both... So they're both sitting there. Captain Freeman's like Mark Twain. This bloody alien's like Mark Twain. And the alien's like, this is so itchy. Like, why we got to scratch it?
It really was weird.
And then
the alien's trying to look like Mark Twain. I'm going like, this isn't working.
But Freeman starts trying to use the wording of Mark Twain, but without the accent. And Boimler and Rutherford are like, no, you've got to put on the accent and stuff. So she starts putting in her southern accent on, which that was slightly comical. It just, it didn't make any sense. And then there was then you got a brief cameo from Shax as he comes in, because I guess he's the security officer, and there is an alien on board who was a bit aggressive. It makes sense he's there. But then the alien goes, screw this, what the hell are we doing? It rips off some of his costume, and then Shax comes up to him, tries to challenge him. He just bloody, like, wrecks Shax. Now, random doesn't make any sense. We're unhappy at what's going on with Shax here, aren't we, Gru?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing doesn't flow whatsoever. And I had mentioned last week that I've been noticing for weeks now, even towards the end of the last season and into this season, that Shax has now become an inconsequential character. You don't see him that much, except when he's involved with Dr. Cat occasionally. And I'm just going to say it flat out. He's become a wimp and he's boring. Whereas before, he was a strong character. And he would always, take charge and would say really funny things, probably over doing it, but that was his character, and it was funny. Now he just comes up and goes, that's all he says, and he tries to fight the alien. The alien just flips him off like he's nothing, and that's the end of that. You don't see Shax anymore. Done. And I'm like, what are they doing? They just totally destroying that character. It's as if he never existed. I
felt sorry for the actor that voices him, because what did you have to do in this part today? And that's it. What?
Yeah.
I know it's a bit lower deckers, but please, the funniest guys are Shax and Tiana, or Dr. Cat as you call her. That's hilarious. And you're barely giving us any of that. Why?
Yeah. I mean, ever since he died in a previous episode and came back to life, ever since then, it's almost like he's just too inconsequential now. He's just not good. And I'm like, again, it doesn't make any sense. And the writing, they're leaving things on the ground that it's the one character of the group that they don't seem to care about anymore. I don't know why.
It's down to the writing 110%, because not only are things not flowing and not making sense, it's also not as funny as previous seasons, and they're not writing good funny lines for some of their funniest characters, and they're barely featuring. Right. So there is a problem with the writing, and it must be different writers. It must be. If it was the same writers as last season, we wouldn't have this problem. They've at least swapped out some of them. You might think that's a good idea, keep talent fresh. That doesn't make any sense if the talent that comes in is shit.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm sorry. I'm getting a bit disappointed with things, but I'll keep watching it because I'm a Star Trek fan. Back on the planet, the girls find out, Tavin, Mariner, that Tendi used to be an assassin back in the day. Of course she did. She's part of a syndicate. That's kind of what happens.
She was like Black Ops pirate.
Black Ops pirate, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
And I'm commenting here, the episode's just getting more and more random. Tendi's sister, they find her, kidnapped herself. What?
It's all fake. Everything's fake.
Because she didn't want to get married. Since Tendi's left Orion, Tendi was Prime. She's not Prime now. It's now her sister, Terrica. That's Erica? I thought that was a Vulcan thing.
Yeah, I know.
Put the T in front. What? Anyway, yeah.
That's what the T's, man. That's like, I mean,
that's
Vulcans,
a Vulcan thing only.
Yeah. So where's this coming from? Like,
but yeah, that's her name, Terrica. She she's kidnapped herself. She doesn't want to get married. All the responsibilities and pressures that were Tendi's are now hers, and she's struggling with the whole thing. So it's a little coup. She just kidnaps herself and is hiding out. And they have a little heart-to-heart, the two sisters, as you do, after a fight, of course. I noticed, though, I didn't comment this before, it's the second... I found this amusing, I don't know why. For the second time in the episode, Mariner gets stabbed. But it's not in a kind of... It's more like in the shoulder where it would hurt and wouldn't be lethal. But she's, oh, come on! Like, rather than being paid, someone just throws a knife. The Terrica throws a knife at her. Oh, come on, guys.
The first time she got thrown the knife was when they were in the nightclub. And a dude throws a knife and she gets it in the shoulder. And then she's like, and bleeding a little bit, whatever. And then all of a sudden, this time she gets it again, and she's going to get it a third time later in the show.
Third, yeah, so I forgot about the third time.
Yeah. So that was kind of comical. It was funny.
I do like Mariner. So yeah, the sisters do have a heart-to-heart to try and work things out. Randomly, I've noted here, the alien on board the Cerritos that has the nebula scanning issue eats Boimler and Rutherford's bonsai tree, because they're talking about, they mentioned the bonsai tree on the holodeck briefly, or was it out the holodeck? And he's like, bonsai. Like, just, it was random. It was so random.
No explanation. He just goes, oh, interesting, a bonsai. Like,
and then the next scene, they're in Boimler and Rutherford's room, and he literally eats the bloody tree in one go. The little tree, there's next to nothing left. And Rutherford's a bit sad that his tree's gone, because that's what he shared with his friend. But then after he eats the bonsai tree, he agrees to then let Freeman scan the nebula. And I'm just like...
Yeah, I am too. I'm like, what does that got to do with anything? What? It's almost like they threw a gag in there, thinking that, let's just throw this random gag in, it'll be funny. But it's not funny because it makes no sense. He eats the tree, ha ha ha. And then he goes like, okay, you can scan it now because I ate the tree. You were so nice to let me eat the tree, so I'm gonna let you scan. Like,
yeah,
what?
It's just weird. It's weird.
Yeah,
but yeah, we've definitely established the randomness in this episode. So after the sisters have continued fighting for a while, the make-up. Basically, Terrica's a bit upset that her sister left her. Not that she's upset all the responsibilities and pressures are now on her shoulders, but she also misses her sister, which is kind of sweet, like. Yeah. You left me for science, basically, which is true. She left her for science in Starfleet. But then Tendi's like, listen, you'll make a great Prime. Like, please just embrace it. I believe you. You're my sister. I love you, blah, blah, blah. And they kind of make up, hug and all that. Also, obviously, of course, Terrica doesn't want to get married as well. Like, she's, screw that. You get that kind of vibe that it's a they don't say it, Gray, but you get the vibe of like a prearranged marriage kind of thing,
Exactly.
Which I won't get into. Not a fan of that myself, but won't get into that. The makeup by Hop. I didn't know this. Where they found Terrica was on an abandoned kind of pretty wrecked ship.
Ship graveyard.
Ship graveyard. Yeah. But they're able to hotwire a ship in time to try and get to the wedding. Like, screw it, let's go to this wedding. Let's get this done. Again, random, but still, kind of cute. Is Tevin here throws away her data pad. She was using it to document everything about Orion because that's a Vulcan thing. They're very interested in everything, and Tendi's kind of not want this done, Gray, because she's almost a bit embarrassed about almost being Orion and everything that's happened there. She doesn't want to know. Tevin, very logical, but she just throws it away, and I can't remember what she said, but I just thought it was kind of sweet because they're friends. She's looking out for a friend. She's like, it's fine, it's all up here, it's all good.
It's very much like the friendship with Spock and Kirk or whatever, because she's realizing that this is really bothering her. It took a while for her Tevin to kind of realize that, but she sees that this is a friend, and then she's really getting upset over it, and then she just tosses it. But it was funny because when she talked to Tevin and said, "Why'd you do that?" she just goes, "It was a logical thing to do." So
that's what she said, Gray. Thank you. Yeah, it makes sense. That is the equivalent of a Vulcan being sweet.
Right.
Pretty much.
There was an emotion there, but they're not going to admit it and go like, "Yeah, it was logical."
Of course not. They can't. She's 100% Vulcan. You can't do that. Right. funnily enough, strangely enough, the hot-wired ship isn't all it's cracked up to be, and it starts failing and starts going down. And
I'm surprised they even got it going.
yeah, well, there you go. You hot-wire a ship that's in a graveyard. I know it's a comedy. They do make the wedding in time, as you see a little puff of smoke in the distance when it crashes. Very random. I thought it was literally when they come right up to the wedding and almost crash right beside them. They do make the wedding in time, and it's all good. And then, as the episode ends, we actually end up with the boys back in the holodeck. Again, just more randomness, but
thing.
Gray explained that, and they kind of make up a little bit. So, right, great. What did you give this episode a score out of, and why?
I went 6.5, but I only gave it the extra half a point because I liked Vin and some of the things that she was doing in the episode. So, and but overall the episode was humorous, but it was kind of forgettable. So it didn't give you the laughs that you really wanted. At the same time, it wasn't totally dull either, but it was just kind of, it was there.
Yeah, that's fair. Very fair comments, to be honest with you. I'm, like I usually am, we're very close in score on I am this time. I'm a 6 out of 10. I do note that it wasn't awful, but it was far from good. Very random throughout. Even after Gray explaining the Mark Twain thing, it's still random in general. I barely laughed throughout the episode, which is a shame. Like, I want to be able to.
Yeah, it was more. Except for like I said, for the guy smelling the female's armpits. That was the only time I actually laughed. The rest of the time was more. Yeah, the rest of the time was kind of a chuckle, like ha ha ha. That was about it.
and I do note here as well that I've said the exact same thing pretty much as Gray here. Is this the animated version of a filler episode, Gray? He's put filler episode ? It seems like it, but why would you have a filler episode? Because it's the same money to make each episode regardless.
Yeah. It's
just running out of ideas and writing being poor. So, no, it's kind of a shame. Let's hope there's not another 6 out of 10. I like to set the benchmark at a minimum of 7 out of 10. That's what I'm aiming for. But yeah, no, thank you for your patience, guys. We tried to make this sound a little bit more interesting this episode because it could have been shorter with it not being Gray and it being a short. These episodes are obviously shorter than usual, so... we will sign off just now. We'll be back next week again, of course. But until then, thanks for coming along, Gray, and do your thing, my man.
Live long and prosper, everybody.
Bye-bye.